sure I get the right order here. Yes, Amorites. Amorites. These are the people. This is the tribe that loves money and stuff, things. There's a kind of a craziness sometimes that goes on in the ministry. I've been in the ministry since 1976. So I've seen lots of stuff, and it's not all beautiful. You know, the church is, she's the only boat floating, but she has some issues, okay? My point here is that when we let money be the reason that we sing or create a CD or to be known, because I did that one time. I got invited to be the worship leader at a conference of people that were probably mostly in their 40s and 50s, and I had just completed my third or fourth album. And of course I wanted to sell it. I wanted to put it on the product table. And so when it came time to lead worship, this was kind of a denominational church that would not have known any of my songs. And I should have sung things like, then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. I should have sung songs that they knew. But instead, I sang a lot of songs from my album. And I did that because I wanted to sell my CDs. And that is an enemy. That's an enemy. Jesus would never have done that. Never. So I want to just warn you that these are the things that as a worshiper, God is looking for a true worshiper, and that means somebody that is looking at God in the scriptures and finding him, following hard after him. And, you know, he says, what does it matter? You're worth more to me than the flowers of the field. I'll take care of you. So this desire to have more and experience more can be real tricky. I'm not against it. I'm not against money, but when it becomes the reason and I stop right there and say, oh, now I've found what ministry is about, then I'm in trouble. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Okay. Let's move on. The Amorites. Let's talk about the Canaanites. The Canaanites are very connected to the Amorites. They think that they're very special. I'll put a little heart. They love me. I love me. Woohoo! I am the center of the universe. These two are very, very closely related. And so Canaanites think that they're special. You know, sometimes we as musicians particularly think that, you know, I'm an artist. Oh, I'm an artist. Don't get into that. Just love the Lord. Be real. Be humble. And just give people what they need, not what you want to give them, but give them what they need. So these two kind of go together. I'm going to move on here a little bit, okay? Okay, let's see. Okay, Perizzites. Okay, Perizzites. Perizzites are the people that want to cause division or think that they got a better idea. So I'm going to put a division, a math sign. This is division, you know. That's what I think, anyway. That's what I remember from 8th grade math. All right, division means that I have a better idea than the pastor. I get it. I'm more spiritual. I'm more this, whatever. By the way, you know, the Bible never, ever, God never asks us to be spiritual. Do you know that? And yet in our Western culture, we say, oh, I want to be spiritual. Don't be spiritual. The Bible says, God says, I want you to be holy. What does holy mean? It means to behave other than your fallen self. That's what holiness is. But when I'm filled with the Perizzites and I want to divide, I don't want to be holy. I want to be right. You know, we all want to be right. We want to win every argument. I heard a friend once say, how many arguments could you lose and still love Jesus? That's a great statement. I love it. So parasites want to divide. I have to tell the story for this one because it's the best illustration I know. I'm brand new Christian, and I'm coming out of I used to play jazz in clubs. And my name then was, I had a stage name called Terry Lansing. This is Terry Lansing here at the Rainbow Room, and we're going to be taking a little break now, but please fill up your cups, fill up your glasses, and I'll play some of your favorites when I get back, like Look at Me, I'm as helpless as a kitten. I can play Misty and all this kind of stuff, right? So I can play piano pretty good. I mean, I've played for a long time. That's not an ego thing. It's just, there it is. So I'm brand new saved, and I go to this church that this person has invited me to, and there's a woman playing the piano. And she's playing Amazing Grace, and she sounds like this. White-haired lady, sweet as can be. And I'm in that church for a couple, 3 weeks, and I'm going, ugh, because I'm a musician and I've got a better idea. I could play better than that. So what do? I go to, I said, Pastor, I would love to have a meeting with you. Now, I've been there long enough to know that you have to use your Christianese voice and use some Christianese terms, to kind of connect. And so I go and I had this meeting with him, and I said, oh, Pastor, I just really love being in this church, and I've just found Jesus, and it's just so wonderful. And I said, I'd really like to serve here. Now I'm maybe 2 months old in Jesus max. He says, well, what can you do? And I said, well, I'm a musician. I play the piano a little. He says, do you? I said, yeah, I do. He says, well, let's go into the sanctuary, and I'd like to hear you play. I said, oh, okay, no problem. Yeah. So we go into the sanctuary, and he sits on the front row of the where the pews are. And as he's sitting there, he says, well, just, go up, and it's a beautiful grand piano. So I'm happy about that. And so he says, well, what can you play? And I said, well, what would you like to hear? And he says, oh, can you play Amazing Grace? We sing that a lot around here. I said, yes, I know. I said, well, I'll try. And I played this. Pretty chords. I said, oh, thanks. It's nothing. That's fake humility. Okay. So he says, well, come in down here. He says, I want you to sit next to me on this front row. Now, I had been in church long enough to realize that if you sit in the front row, you're important. More important than the person that's in the fourth row. That's in the Bible. So I sit down next to him, and he says, I'm going to ask you to do something for me. And I said, oh, yes, sir. What can I do? I would do anything, sir. And he says, well, what I'd like you to do is, he says, I'd like you to sit here on the front row with me. I said, really? And I'm thinking, he's going to ask me. He's going to ask me to play the piano. Yay. And he says, what I'd like you to do is just sit on the front row and not play the piano for 1 year. I said, wonderful, just wonderful. I smiled, but inside I'm like a wreck because I played better than that lady did, and I deserved it because I played better because I wasn't a worshiper yet. I was just a musician. Big difference. Anyway, so I sat on the front row and da-da-da-da-da, and after, a couple more months, I just was so frustrated. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to invite some people that I've met here at the church over to my house on Friday nights, and we'll just do our own worship. We'll order pizza and then da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so they start coming Friday nights, and we have this time of worship, and I play, and pretty soon one of them says this to me. He says, Terry, why aren't you playing the piano at church? Which is exactly what I wanted them to say. Because I was a musician and not a worshiper. So, anyway, I said, well, I don't know. And now we got a group of people that are against the pastor. The parasites have come into our church, and I brought them. So what's amazing is later in my past thousands of years in the ministry, I pastored for a while. And the pastor knows everything. They hear everything. You can't hide anything from the pastor. They know everything. So I end up sitting there, and now we got this little division group, and he knows what's going on. He knows what I'm doing. And I'm sitting right next to him every Sunday, and he would come along and lay his hand on my shoulder and just begin to bless me. Because he was a worshiper, and I was just a musician. Make my life worship, not just in songs I sing, but Jesus in everything. Make my life worship, let my whole life worship you.